In step 14 of this IPL course on self-awareness and human intelligences, we talk a bit more about personalities and how your nature and your nurture has turned you into a particular type of personality. We talk briefly about cleverness and how it can sometimes be a burden. And then we start to move on to social intelligence and how other people react to you and what you can do about that.
And they are interpeople to some extent, but they're highly, highly innovative. On the other hand, you could have someone, like I met a guy at lunchtime who owned a really good restaurant. He's given me his card, I'm glad to say. So he's terrific with people and he's building his business. He's the sort of guy who could open up a chain. So he's up here. He's great with people. He hires very, very good staff, and he's outward looking. So really, and you've got other people who are good with people, but they want a safe job with people. So they may well get a job working. They may take a career working for a retail organization and try and grow up that retail organization. All retail jobs are getting less and less safe because of the innovation of organizations like Amazon and so on. That's another concept. I'll pop it out. I'll tell you this straight away because it's good to get this terminology. If you've got a shop, it's a physical store, that's known as Brics, because the store presumably is made of bricks, although in this part of the world it's made of plywood. Nearly everything's built with plywood. Or it's a retail organization. It's online. It's what are called clicks. So usually it's bricks or clicks, and then more and more these people who've got companies with shops are realizing they have to have an online capability. So they become bricks and clicks. I'm drifting talking in the world of business. I apologize for it. I think that understanding and having a mentality about business is worth doing. If you go out there, use your soft skills, you're going to find yourself really good with people. And you have to decide how you're going to use those people skills. And if you want a safe job, you'll be able to talk yourself into a job in one of these retail organizations onto their management stream. You really won't have any trouble doing it because your soft skills in terms of people will be way ahead of anybody else, or most people, unless they've done this stuff, of course. So it's people. So it's either people or things. You know, if you like being a programmer, you'll be here. A lot of people like games, computer games. Now, I'm not quite sure where to put those people. If they only play by themselves and don't interact with anybody else, they're going to be pretty low on people. But more and more, what you find with game players is they do interact with other people, sometimes indirectly with the screen, over the people all over the world. And then more and more what's happening is then they form a team and they go off to a convention or something and compete with other game players, or they go to an exhibition or stuff like that. And so they start moving up from just things to engagement with people. So you can be somewhere along the line of things and people, and you can be somewhere along the line between safe and risky. So the idea of this model is to help you decide what you like. Think about yourself. Think about your preferences. When you have spare time at the weekend, or during the week or in the evenings, do you go out and meet people, or do you sit at home? Do you read books? Do you play games? Do you get on the telephone at home and talk to your friends? Or if you use social media, you know, I'm not an expert on social media, but I'm sure you can have an interaction with people via social media. And so I'm going to stop on this model, which is what type of person you are. And the next model I'm going to do is to explore how sociable are you? What kind of person are you in terms of social?
you'll realize that we've also been talking about critical analytical thinking and the various categories of thought. So that's another useful skill to build up. During the course of the whole thing, we will be talking much more about categories. But right now, I hope you're starting to get used to the idea that you can invent your own categories in order to analyze your own problems. And that's really the key point that we're trying to do here as well. Good luck. As you work through these tapes on self-awareness that were recorded in a single week at Santa Cruz, you will realize that what we're trying to do here is tackle one of the most complicated problems that mankind has ever faced, which is understanding how a person's mind actually works. What are the thought paths that go through the human mind, and how are they processed by individuals, and how does that processing change as they grow older and have more experiences? Now, because that's such a complex problem, in fact, far more complex than modeling a dual rotor helicopter or anything like that, you're going to need tools. Now, so far, we've started to introduce you to various types of tools like dialectics and categories that have been used in the past by philosophers and psychiatrists and psychologists and so on and so on. But none of that work has ever really developed a practical functioning model, which is why the IPL considers it so important to share this information with you. The 4 Eyes model, or 4 intelligences model, which encompasses emotional intelligence, social intelligence, your applied functional intelligence, and finally your academic intelligence, is a model that you can use to build up an awareness of your own thought processes. Now, this particular video moves on from helping you understand what kind of person you are to understanding better how you interact with other people. And as such, it falls into your social intelligence or interpersonal dynamics. You'll understand that better by the end of this particular lecture. So it's really important because intelligent people especially often find it hard to relate to other people. It can be a burden if you feel cleverer than other people. And often that's an illusion. You're not cleverer. Or you may have built your self-esteem by feeling you're the cleverest person in the class or the room or at your school or whatever. Now, those things aren't real. They are not a good basis for engaging with society and humanity. Society is very hard on people that they think of as a smart ass or a know-it-all and so on and so on. So developing your social intelligence, and I'm assuming you are a relatively intelligent person, or you wouldn't have got it this far through these tapes. Developing your social style based on your social intelligence and the other aspects of your interaction with one other person or a group of people or society in general is really important to understand. And this lecture is just an introduction to a subject which you can explore and grow. And what we're giving you is a framework. We're giving you a foundation upon which you can do your own research and develop your own social interaction skills. So good luck again.
Okay, I watched that last clip, tape, video back, and I apologise if the focus was all over the place. What I've done this time is switch off the autofocus. I'm going to try and stand back here more, so hopefully there'll be less of a challenge of me, going in and out and looking blurry and so on. That's point 1. Point 2 is, I don't know how much you're familiar with a product called Microsoft PowerPoint, but the later versions of PowerPoint have a capability to display information in different sorts of boxes. You can have circles or arrows or pie charts or pyramids and all that sort of stuff. And the reason they put that in is it kind of breaks up the tedium, the boringness of line after line of text. I don't really like PowerPoint. There's a thing called death by PowerPoint. It was around for so long. I have hundreds of PowerPoint presentations, and I'm going to get my son Alexander maybe to help me make them more interesting, because there's some good stuff there. There's some useful stuff, but somehow I have to cross the bridge. My book, when it eventually comes out, will be called The Bridge from Student to the Real World. There you go, there's a promo. I'm writing the book not to make money, but just because people have said to me, oh, we really need a book like that, Graham. How do we get out of our academic and university environment and across into the real world? How do we interview well? What's the real world like? What do we need to be on the alert for? What's a good job to have and what's a less good job to have, and that kind of thing. So all of this is all playing into this area of soft skills and bridging from where you are now and the extent to which you need to add to your skills and be really expert in the business world. Now, you may already not be a student anymore. You may be in the business world, but it's highly probable that using the soft skills in a good way will make you more effective. And that's why I'm coming on now to social skills, because whichever side of the bridge you are, you need social skills. And once you're in the business world, the real world, you really need social skills far more than your academic knowledge. So let's get on with it. Now, here's the thing, and why I talked to you about PowerPoint. This supposed dialectic model isn't the best model to use to explain social skills and help you develop your soft skills in the social area. I'm going to use something which I think is called a Venn diagram. Now, a Venn diagram starts off with a sort of the concept of a circle. This is I think it's called a domain. I'm not doing. Now, I'm a practical guy. I live in the real world. Domain isn't, would you like some domain with your breakfast this morning? Or the domain, I prefer the domain of coffee to tea or something like that. But hey, it's a word and people use it. What it is, what domain means, is let us take this world of infinite variety and chaos and change, and let us draw mentally in our minds a boundary around it. And let us then analyze what goes on inside that domain. And let us not bother too much about all the other stuff that's going on out here.
Because if we focus on that, we can apply our critical analytical thinking in terms of that, and we simplify things. And we enable ourselves to focus. Okay, so what is this domain? This domain is you, as you exist in the here and now. Remember, this is just a model. It represents you in a social context. So if that's you, and we're talking about social activity which involves other people, and interpersonal dynamics or preferences. So inter means there is a person here and there's another person here, or it may be a group of people. Let's continue this in step 15, because IPD, interpersonal dynamics, is a vital management skill.